Hi and welcome. My name is Stanley and this is Beyond Business. Now in today's video, I want to get us into the service business, the service industry. Now in this specific channel, we've been talking about the product business, we've talked about a laundry business, we've talked about the convenience shops, we've also talked about the decor and interior business and a clothing business. Now all these rely on selling an actual product. But what about selling a service? This is a skill that is passed on and is provided by a professional, and in exchange you pay for cash. Now we want to take an example of something we mentioned in episode 2 and 3, which is the car industry. We want to test what it means to stand out in a local garage, get into the more experienced businesses such as Auto Express, where we shall be taking the car for review, and as well as Parapet for an interior vehicle detailing. So the problem with the car was that it had its check engine light on, as well as the ABS light on, as well as a broken up front bumper. So the first thing, of course, I did was to just check online to see whether I could get any ideas of what could be wrong. The suggestions were either a malfunction with the way the engine was running or a possible issue within the emission system. But not being a techie or a mechanic, I wouldn't know what all this means. There are a bunch of videos from different people who've owned the car that I have. These videos just pretty much give an example of what happened to them, which may not necessarily apply in my case. So I searched the vehicle diagnostics companies in Kenya, and I noticed that they're quite a bit, and I wouldn't know where to start. I also took to Google to just find out what ABS light means and what problem it could indicate that the car has or could have had. I noticed it was mainly around the brakes, suspension issues, and having recently changed my tires and brakes at Auto Express, I literally went back to them to check whether they had an opinion of what could have led to the ABS light coming on. Conclusion, they mentioned that the sump guard for the protection of the engine and the gearbox was worn out. It had a leak and it needed its seals changed, and to have the ABS sensor checked. This is a broken wheel hub as a result of having hit a curb or a parking space when parking, and I guess years of constantly using the vehicle in that state may have led to the wheel hub actually going bad. And so the ABS sensor is directly connected to the wheel hub. So when it spins, it's able to identify whether there is vibration or wobbling, and that you also feel in the steering wheel. Now, occasionally it actually damages, if it's a serious issue, it damages the suspension. So it's easily fixed by aligning the suspension. But in this case, we only needed to fix the wheel hub and we were good to go. Of course, with every garage startup, you need to have the right technical skills. Auto mechanics may be assigned different duties and responsibilities depending on their work environment and specialization. Of course, you have brake technicians mainly focused on the brake and suspension issues. Mechanical repair was undergoing. The bodyworks team was in charge of just repairing the front bumper. As you can see, it had a bit of dents and scratches and torn parts that needed patching. And as what you're seeing right now is just application of the filler agents to cover all the scratches and the torn parts, and to harden the surface before smoothing using sandpaper, after which clear coat would be applied and the actual painting begins. Next step, we needed to fit the ABS sensor back into the wheel hub. what you're seeing here is two cables. One was the old ABS sensor, which was in perfect condition, but since the wheel hub came with a new one, we felt we could just connect the new ABS sensor with the socket of the old sensor. And that's what we are doing here. The anti-lock brake system, it's pretty much designed to prevent you from locking up your brakes or applying so much pressure to your brakes that the axle or your wheels stop or completely stop turning. And that may force you into a skid that may eventually lead you to a complete loss of control. Finally, the ABS system has been installed and it's been fastened into place so that it doesn't move about inside the wheel hub. So the work of this sensor is simply to notify the computer module that despite you being in a forward motion, your wheels have stopped moving. And so it means that the brakes have overpowered the traction within a given wheel. So each wheel has an ABS sensor, and it depends on the cars that you're using. So the computer will immediately then notify the hydraulic valve to discharge a measure of brake fluid pressure, so as to get the wheel, in motion once again. So this process repeats itself as many times a second until you lift your foot off the brake, or when the vehicle comes into full control. So basically, if you're in a newer model vehicle, you may have noticed that when you apply your brakes, you kind of stop sooner than you had hoped or you had thought you would. This is partly due to the anti-lock braking system. It basically just checks constantly when you're in motion whether the wheels are able to actually move in the same speed, and they are all rotating when your brakes are being applied. So we will be spray painting the vehicle, so the headlights and other sensitive parts need to be covered. This is a spray gun. Ideally, spray painting guarantees a much more refined, controlled, and something that comes out looking nice since you can control it by your hand movements. And this is pretty much what we shall be doing in this particular case. So the paint came out looking nice. The guys at Silac really outdid themselves, and I'm sure you may be wondering where to get your paint code for your next job. Of course, try and check just below the driver's side door. Yeah, there should be stickers on the body of the vehicle. And they come in, maybe one may say paint and the other trim. Those two are the codes that you give to a paint dealer, and they'll be able to computer generate your specific paint. Of course, you can also look at your owner's manual in case you still have that. And basically also check in the engine bay where the chassis number is located. There's tendency for some manufacturers to actually put the paint code on the same piece of metal. Finally, he's spraying a transparent layer of paint, pretty much called a clear coat. It covers the colored coat, and it's really used to prevent oxidation of the colored coat, and as well as changing the reflective index. That's the level and the type of gloss. You notice it shines a bit more. It increases, of course, the overall thickness of the layer of the paint applied on the car. And at the end of it all, it maintains what has been done, and it makes it easy for an eventual repair and maintenance of the same. I don't know about you, but I would say the car looks absolutely amazing. The front grille and bumper is on point. The paintwork was perfect. Basically what Silac Motors did, both mechanically and the bodywork, was amazing. So you must have noticed that Silac Motors did not have all this fancy equipment or a garage that's well kitted and all that. They've just started out. But then it's the quality of output that made me go to them. But then even before I knew about them, I was told about them. So then you have to also remember, only those that know you can recommend you to others. And so the key in this particular case, when you're starting up a garage, is not necessarily having everything figured out. But then you need to start. And it doesn't matter the location, it doesn't matter whatever equipment or investment that you need to make. You've got to have the necessary tools for what you're good at. So for a painter, he needed to have that spray painter as well as the compressor. For the mechanic, they needed to have the spanners, they needed to have a certain set of bolts. All in all, you have to also partner with other experts. Set yourself amongst other mechanics in your area, so that as more customers are coming to that particular mechanic, they can be able to get, that mechanic can easily refer you to that particular customer or can refer customers to you. In this way, you get to grow your referral base. And of course, the solution may not always be with the most expensive service provider, but it's always good to seek a second opinion. So we took the car back to Auto Express to ensure that everything was working fine. We had to do alignment to ensure that stability was back, and as well as to just confirm the different things that were done on the car, including checking the gearbox seals, whether they were still intact, it wasn't leaking, same as the engine oil sump guard. as well as just checking the new wheel hub and confirming that indeed then the car was in perfect and in proper driving conditions. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe button, like and share, and see you on to the next one.